Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new Civivi that is none other than the Civivi Imperium. And we don't just have one Civivi Imperium. Today we have two. We have two different versions, one in a carbon fiber resin with silver shred, and the other one in your typical G10 layout. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, you may be asking, why did I buy two of these? Well, for one, I just thought these looked absolutely amazing, and I wasn't sure which one I wanted. I figured I could easily sell or trade, most likely sell the one I don't want, very soon after this review and just move on with the one I like. And when I got these two, I was really surprised at the differences between them. There is a lot more difference between these two knives than just a handle material and price. So we're going to go over that as well and cover everything we can. And I think it's going to help all you guys make a much better educated decision on one of these knives if you were looking at either one. Now, before we go any further, let's take a look at some specs. Let's look at the overall specs on these knives right here, and let's go. We have an overall length of 7.83 inches, excuse me, a blade length of 3.47 inches with a cutting edge at 3.125 inches. We have a blade width coming in at 0.875 inches with a blade thickness at 0.12 inches. That blade material is Nitro V. Yes, Nitro V has made its way into the Civivi lineup, and it's going to be really interesting to see just how many budget brands follow suit with that. I think Civivi really does tend to set a lot of trends in the budget sector, so it will be very interesting to see where else Nitro V starts to all of a sudden pop up. We have a blade style of drop point with a blade grind being flat and a handle length coming in at 4.25 inches. We have a handle thickness at 0.51 inches and a handle width at 0.75 inches. With the handle material, as I said, the carbon fiber resin with silver shred, and then just your regular G10. Also important to note, there is some nice texturing on this G10 that we will talk about a little later as well. Locking mechanism for both of them are liner locks, and now the user, the right or left hand carry, it gets a little different here. On the G10 version, as you can see, there are holes down here for the pocket clip, so you have left or right hand carry tip up on the G10 version, but when you get over to the carbon fiber resin version, there are no holes, so this is right hand only tip up carry. Very important to know for you lefties out there. When it comes to weight, the weight for the carbon fiber resin version is 2.95 ounces, and the weight for the G10 version, 3.15 ounces. No real difference. You're not going to notice either one. You could just as easily say they're both 3 ounces because, yeah, you're just not going to notice that difference. Price, there is a significant difference. Price for the G10 version, you're looking at $68, and price for the carbon fiber resin version, you were looking at $89.25. Now, giving the materials and, just kind of the extra little zip you get with the carbon fiber shred with the silver shred add-ons, and they also make it in gold and copper. I don't have a problem with either one of these prices, guys. They're both pretty solid for the kind of exotic options you have here, and then your just regular base run. I think they're both well in line of the prices that Civivi is asking. Now, size comparisons. I'm gonna take this pretty silver shred one out of here, and we'll take a look at just the G10 version for this. And let's start off with some CJRBs, one of Civivi's biggest competitor. We have the CJRB Feldspar. This is the regular size with the 3.5-inch blade. And we will also take a look at the CJRB Centros, which also has a 3.5-inch blade, maybe a little bigger than that. The Centros is also just a longer knife. And as you can see, compared to the Imperium, it is considerably longer. Really not much wider or anything like that. You just have a lot of extra length that you really, you may or may not need that depending on your hand size. And as for the Feldspar, it's a much better comparison as far as width and length and pretty much every possible way you can compare the two. But still very different from the Imperium. Now, let's take a look at some Civivi front flippers, because You all know there's two other ones that I like a whole lot. I've liked them since the day they came out, and that is the Civivi McKenna, as well as the Civivi Exarch. Now, what do these knives have in common, and what makes them different? So actually, of course, as you can probably see, they're all very different. They don't have a lot in common other than they're Civivis, and they're both all front flippers. And what I really like about this now, Civivi has done it. They now have a small front flipper, a medium front flipper, and in my opinion, a larger front flipper. This is not a small knife, probably would be considered a larger knife by most people. So a nice spread of options for those that like front flippers. And you also get that second deployment method with those thumb studs that we'll talk about later. That is pretty sweet. But as you can see, definitely bigger than these two, and really a little wider than both. As far as ergos, it's closer to the Exarch, but it's still very different because you have a lot more curvature, different thickness, all sorts of stuff. Not quite the neutral grip that you get with the Exarch. So a lot of differences there, but just nice to see the whole Civivi front flipper lineup. Now, let's start talking about just these. Oh, wait, one more. Gotta bring this one in. And you're going to see why once I set it down. This is the newly released Civivi Brazen. And wow. Actually, let me just hold them up here. That looks similar to you? Does that look kind of, yeah. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? They look very, very similar, from the grind lines to the length to everything. The only difference is the height of the blade. Definitely you could almost call this a modified brazen blade, but it's not. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to pull the Ortis and Vagabond issue that I had earlier, because it's not that bad. But this is a good way to move into the blade on these two, because there are, as you can see, the blade of the Imperium is very, very similar to that of the Ortis. And I'm having a little, there we go, the Ortis, the Brazen. The Brazen and Imperium blades are very, very similar. I'm going to set the Brazen off for a second, and we can just focus on the blade of just the Imperium. And as you saw, it is pretty much a slimmer Brazen drop point blade with a slightly different belly and a choil added. So I am totally fine with that. I get that there are a lot of similarities. I get that there are some things that some people may not like. And as you guys have heard in the past, I've been a little critical of a couple Civivi knives in particular, of how Civivi made one become a new knife. But in my opinion, these are obviously completely different knives. I think they just use the profile of a very, very attractive blade. You guys all know I really do like the Brazen drop point. I like it a whole lot. One of my favorite Civivis ever. I think this here is a good example of taking a great knife, making some changes to it, and doing a successful job of making a completely different knife that is also equally great. Now, the huge difference between this blade and this blade is absolutely the edge. The edge on the Brazen, if you guys go back and watch my review, you'll see it came in at about, I want to say 15 thousandths, maybe 16 thousandths. So still very, very, very sharp. Very good job by Civivi on this blade. But then when you get to the Imperium, this is insane. This Imperium blade is 9 thousandths behind the edge, and it is absolutely a laser beam. And just comparing these two here, as you can see, I'm going to pull this carbon fiber version out of the way again in case it's throwing off my focusing. But as you can see, just comparing it right there, look at how much thicker the tip of, or the upper third part of the blade on the Brazen is compared to the Imperium. The Imperium is much, much, much thinner as you get farther up the blade, and you notice that. You feel that in cutting performance and in deployment. The deployment, which we will get to more in the action, but it does not feel the same as the Brazen drop point. Very, very different feel, because it is a significantly lighter blade, since it's a shorter blade, or a shorter blade as far as the tallness of the blade goes. Everyone has different ways of describing it. I always consider this the the height of the blade, so it is a shorter blade in height. They're pretty much the exact same length in actual blade length, maybe a slight, no, they're pretty much the same. So yeah, so it is, while it may look similar to the Brazen, it is a completely different blade as far as performance. It is just absolutely insane. There's really no way I can show this. And there may be a way. Let's see here. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see, but I mean, it is just absolutely paper thin, and this blade is incredible. This may be the most impressive Civivi blade as far as thinness behind the edge and cutting performance I've personally handled. So it is very, very impressive. And also, of course, topped off with great thumb studs and some pretty good jimping. The jimping is not the best jimping in the world, but it's definitely good enough to be functional, and it also works very well for the front flipping action, which we will get to here in just a bit. Now, the handle and ergos, another really big difference here between these. Now, as far as how they both feel in hand, in terms of the choil and just where it sits in your hand, they both feel good. They both feel really good in your standard grip, not using the choil. Just like this, they're both good. When you get to the actual finger choil, for me, and you guys know I love a finger choil, the finger choil on this, it's really not that great. It's way too cramped up here for me. I can make it work, but I am a little concerned about this edge up here is for my finger, and considering this thing is freaking 9 thousandths behind the edge, I feel like it could cut you rather easily. I'm not saying I have cut myself, but I haven't been using it that much. When I use this knife, I will probably be holding it most of the time back in this position. It'll get me just a little more, a little more reach as well. So I'll probably just be doing that. Obviously the same goes for this. The choil is it's too cramped for me. One of the few times I think I would probably just pass on there being a finger choil here and just have a little bit of extra blade. But in all honesty, you're not really losing much cutting edge regardless of how they did it. So I guess I'm just kind of very neutral on that. I'm not going to use it. If you have skinnier fingers and smaller hands, you may really like the finger choil. So that can be at the discretion of the user and hand size and shape and all that good stuff. Now, as far as the scales and the milling, as you can see, they both have milling on the scales. They have kind of just this to me, it's almost like a random design. I don't know how well, excuse me, I need more coffee. I don't know how well it goes with the knife. I don't think it's bad. I'm still not sure exactly how I feel about this milling pattern. If I keep the G10 version, I'm definitely going to Rick dye it something, probably just black. But yeah, it kind of looks nice. I think it looks better on the carbon fiber resin version because it's a little more hidden and the lines kind of help. I don't know. It just looks a little more attractive to me. On the G10 version, you're just kind of like, I guess why'd they do that? But no real issue either. Like I said, I don't think it looks bad. First thing I thought when I looked at it was, I wonder why they did that. Probably just to make it look different and give it some type of extra little character or, appearance at the handle. So it kind of just is what it is. But the most important thing to know between these two handles is the G10. The G10 is flat. As you can see, just nice flat off at the top, but the G10 does also have some nice texturing, and the texturing, you do feel it. I think it does. I don't know if it helps, but you notice it. It's one of those mind things to where you have that texture, so you're just a little more comfortable handling the knife, and the carbon fiber resin version is contoured. See, you got the roundness up there, and I will say you do notice that in hand. This does feel ever so slightly, just a little bit better in hand for me with the contouring, and this still feels good. I really don't have anything bad to say about the G10 version. Again, it's going to come down to user preference, but one thing I will say, even with the texturing on the G10 version, as you guys can see, let me get the light reflecting it. As you can see, there's no real texturing on this carbon fiber resin version, but it's not slippery. It does not feel slippery to me because holding it in this standard grip right here with your index finger on kind of the curve of the handle and just the way everything wraps into your hand with the jimping up here, I have 100% confidence that this is going to stay in my hand. If somehow this knife slips out of my hand for whatever I'm using to cut it with, I probably shouldn't be using this knife to cut it, because that would be extremely hard use. I don't think any budget knife on bearings is an extremely hard use knife. It's not something that you're going to want to use. It always comes down to user preference, but at the end of the day, if I have a really tough cutting job, like if I'm for some reason helping put carpet down and I want something to cut carpet, and instead of a razor I want to use a knife, I'm going to use something with washers. Because you have more stability. It's just, it's a better purpose for a knife like that with washers than something with bearings. You can always, the bearings in a knife, especially a budget knife, even though Civivi is the best budget brand, you can always get a little play with bearings, and you work them too hard, you can start to get a little blade play, you can start to wear on it a little. So these knives for me are just regular EDC knives. They're, they're to cut open packages, letters, they're to, for a couple quick cutting jobs of really anything, but it's not something you want to take on a job where you're just going to be abusing it all day. So when it comes to the grip and how these feel, I think they're both great. I actually do prefer the carbon fiber resin version, even though it doesn't have the texturing. But again, I still like this as well. So it's really not knocking either one, but it's just very important to know that the carbon fiber version is contoured without texturizing, and this is flat but with texturizing. So there's your differences there. And one last thing, when it comes to the clip, you do feel the clip a little more than you really want to, I think, on this. I don't really call it a hotspot, because Civivi does a really good job of engineering their clips to where they just really aren't hotspots to me. But on a slender knife, you're always going to feel the pocket clip a little more, because you just have less width in the handle, spreading out and dispersing how the knife feels in your hand. So you feel the clip a little more. Take it how you want it. If you guys don't have a problem with the Exarch, you're probably not going to have a problem with this, because it's kind of similar to the Exarch in my opinion. Getting into the action on these guys. So when we're talking thumb studs, the action is about as good as it gets. You can do the regular thumb, you can do the reverse flick. It's your typical regular Civivi goodness. Very, very good on either one. And now when it comes to the front flipper on these, the front flipper, for me personally, on more slimmer knives like these, I kind of get the need to hold my index finger out. And it helps me balance it. Now, I don't have any concern about losing the knife in my hand or dropping it or anything like that, because it just feels really good in my hand. You can do the reach around just fine, so enjoy it. There it is. But no, everything on this knife action wise is pretty much on point. Let me know, does anyone else feel the need to do this? Because I have to do this. I don't know why. If I hold my finger up here, I can still do it. It just feels really weird to me. It feels a little awkward. But if I just use my bottom 3 fingers and my thumb, it flips out so much easier. It feels well balanced. Don't feel like I'm going to drop the knife. So that may just be a me thing. That just may be a, Wayne's Weird type thing. I don't know. But let me know. Does anyone else need to do that when they go to deploy a front flipper, particularly a slimmer front flipper? But no, action on these things are just absolutely solid. I wouldn't expect anything less from Civivi. I'd be a little disappointed if they were. But no, super, super, super good action. I think aesthetically they are absolutely gorgeous. Another reason I bought 2 is because I don't know, I may just keep both of them because they're so different. As far as looks, I'm not sure yet, but I really, really do love this knife. Overall thoughts are, I feel like I'm saying this too much this year, but it's another one of my all-time favorite Civivis. Next time I make my favorite Civivi list, you guys, there's going to be a lot of new knives in it compared to my last one. This is just the year of Civivi when it comes to the sub $100 category. It's just another fantastic offering with new materials, exotic looks, and just overall on-point killer designs. So I hate to sound like a Civivi fanboy and I'm kissing their butt a little extra hard this year, but it really is just that good. So many of the previous designs I really liked, and these ones that are coming out this year, for me personally, they're beating a lot of their better models from years past, which is so freaking hard to do, but they're doing it. So I really have to take my hat off to Civivi. This is another great model. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think of this version, and what's been your favorite Civivi release this year so far? Because I'm torn between this and the Brazen Drop Point, and the Riffle's still a good one, but I tell you, between these two knives here, I don't think I could take the Riffle over either one of these. I really love both of these knives. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope the comparison was nice and educational. I hope you figured out everything you needed to know about these knives. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.